Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I am your host, Chris Doris, and every once in a while, we like to switch it up a little bit, and we're doing that this week. We've got another highlight reel for you where we go back into the archives and we select a handful or two handfuls of our amazing badass guests, and we pick out some nuggets of mental toughness gold, and we put them together in a highlight reel here for you. So we've got that for you today. Now, as a reminder, if you're not getting the notifications of the Tough Talks and blog posts, and if you aren't getting your 6 a.m. daily dose, the daily dose, that's my morning email blast where I send out the daily dose mental toughness tips in 30 seconds or less, then we need to address that. Let's go ahead and just resolve that issue, if that's the case, by going to ChristopherDoris.com/lists, Lists. ChristopherDoris.com/lists. Put your name and email and bam, we hook you up with all the goodies. All right, enjoy the reel. And as always, until next time, create miracles.
Saying a mantra, which you and I talk about positive self-talk or saying a mantra all the time, and we know that mantra is like a word that means protector of the mind.
That's
but
awesome.
Now,
I didn't know that too. Let's hold that thought, because that's a thing. That's like a takeaway.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Because I'm using mantras all day, every day, right? And I forgot that piece. I forgot that. See, this is why I hang with you. Yes, mantra means the protector of the mind. Is that like Sanskrit?
Yes, it's Sanskrit, and it means protector of the mind. Because when your mind is anchored on a positive thought, let's say, then it's going to protect it from running around into negativity.
That's so cool.
And, if you look at neuroscience, and where I'm going with this is that it's amazing how neuroscience is now giving us some hard facts that show us the why. Show us like, this is why this works. Because when your mind is anchored on a mantra or on a saying or on a positive thought, then you're going to release certain neuromodulators that are going to facilitate you feeling that way. And then even cooler and more amazing is, even current research is showing that when you say positive thoughts, and this is one study, there might be others as well, that your brain actually changes in size, that your hippocampus, which controls memory, and there's also a center that controls like voice recognition, that some monks that have been repeating mantras are showing larger brain areas. Again, they're demonstrating larger brain mass in these important areas.
To the emotion that you experienced today during this interview, because it was like of a remembrance, like, don't have to suffer so damn much. Don't have to struggle so much. Don't even need to settle so much. And it's like so I got weepy today. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And the most important thing is those things are true. The sadness and why do we do that? All true. But the polar opposite is the core important thing. Like joy is a choice. You can live. One of the core messages on Your Ultimate Life podcast is you can have your ultimate life today, here, now. Life of purpose, prosperity, and joy is available now, not when X. X has nothing to do with it. You can have it today and nobody can take it away from you. It is yours to design and to create, period. And that uplifting, reaching message, scream, shout, sing, plead, love its way into the hearts of those who feel it and then are caught up in that web of belief that says somebody somewhere, but not me, not now, not here, first this, first that, which is not true. It is a limiting, I call it a context straitjacket. We live in this web of beliefs that is a context straitjacket.
It's not even a full sentence. It's a fragment. It says, we replace wishing with knowing.
Yeah.
And hoping with acting.
So this is, I'm fairly mean about it in the book, but the idea of hope is just drives me up the wall.
Good. Bring it.
Because it's such a lazy, passive, just silly approach to life.
Yeah, man.
And so I quote Francois de la Rochefoucauld in the book, and this whole passage he has about hope and how it transports us to our end, more comfortably, essentially. And it's like, well, this is not good. What you're describing, this is terrible. Like, we're just fooling ourselves into complacency. And it's like this palliative thing where it's like, well, you're dying and everything's horrible, but hey, just hang on to a little bit of hope, and then you can kind of pretend it's not so bad, and then you're dead. I look at that passage and I go, how do people read this and think, wow, yeah, hope is this wonderful thing? So my point is that hope again is this lazy, passive sort of approach. And what I want is confidence in things working out, our trust that they will work out, not because we're sitting there hoping and kind of expecting some benevolent force in the universe to reach down and fix things for us for whatever reason. Like, we don't know why it cares, it's interested in our success, but because that we are taking the action necessary to ensure that these things work out, right? So we are going out of our way to become more intelligent, more capable, more willing to do these things, to ensure that in any conceivable situation, we have the best possible chance of getting through to the other side successfully.
I'm not a real fan of you hear the terms drug of choice and things like that. I'm not a big. I think it will always evolve and always changed. I would have used anything that got me out of me. Was kind of.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so we will unpack that in a minute.
Yeah. So, I
use what you said was I would use anything that would get me out of me.
Yeah, get me out of myself.
Yeah, you said something similarly, and again, I definitely want to unpack that with you, because you said in another interview that I listened to you, and you used the phrase using to avoid being or sitting with themselves. People use to avoid being with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is I didn't use substances because I liked the substance. I used because I didn't like me. I used because I had any assortment of feelings, emotions, past traumatic things, anything I just didn't want to deal with. I tried to numb through some other aspect. Is the short version of it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
I didn't see this at the time. There's a lot of ways that addictive behaviors can show up. It can literally be behaviors, not just substances. I can check out through any assortment of things. I can check out through gambling. I can check out through toxic relationships. Let me pay attention to somebody else so I don't have to look at myself. Let me involve myself in being busy all the time. Let me, all sorts of shiny, pretty things I don't really need as an attempt to make myself feel better. Going to the gym way too much, working 18 hours a day, and I'm not saying there's not value in hard work. Don't get me wrong. But
of course,
when I'm using something external to try to fix something internal, then I end up, it's super unsustainable. And I did that, I'll look at it this way. My the first thing I think I got addicted to was people's approval. It's approval.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, wanting to be a part of, wanting to be enough, wanting to get validation from you to prove that I'm good enough for me. It's a piece of it. And most of the people that I work with, there's some version of that. Now it varies from person to person, but for me, I spent most of my life just rapidly seeking approval of others, and I didn't see it at the time, and I didn't see that I was doing all these things. It's easy when you look back, it's easy to connect all these dots together, but in the moment, it just seemed commonplace.
Yeah, well, it's really important to understand something. So 6 years ago, after more rock bottoms than I can care to remember, I finally hit the bottom one. And it was at a point in my life where I was consumed by escapism behavior. And at the time I was gambling prolifically, mainly on horse racing. This particular incident, it was about midnight on a Tuesday night, nestled up in my bed, my laptop prized open, gambling on a horse race in a country that I wasn't in, spending money that wasn't mine. And I had this epiphanous moment where I was like, the life that I imagined for myself is not this. And there was a phone number in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that I'd never seen before. And I looked down, it was the number for the Gamblers Helpline over here in Australia. And I instinctively just called the number, and I spoke to this amazing woman, Mary, and I call her Mary Magdalene. And the conversation we had was mind-blowing. She spoke to me about gamblers experience far higher rates than suicide than any of the other hedonistic behaviors because of how quickly people lose everything. And it really struck me, and it scared the pants off me. And through that experience, I was able to get access to a gambling psychologist for free for 18 months, paid for by the taxes from poker machine losses over here, right? And the very first session with the psychologist, she spoke about the link between escapism behavior and coping mechanisms that children develop as a result of growing up in a less than nurturing environment, which is a fancy phrase for dysfunction, which for me was nothing more innocuous than being a child of divorce. Mum and dad split up when I was 3.5. Those two were doing the best they could with the tools they had available, but they were ill-equipped to esteem themselves, let alone their children. And so I grew up using, as a really young man, video games and TV and movie and self-deprecating humor to deal with all of that trauma that I took on as a kid. And then as I got old enough to consume alcohol and then drugs and, philandering, if people even use that word anymore, anything that I could to really step away from what was there. And it was only when I started to address and then understand that what I went through was fixable by, for me, reverse engineering what I'd gone through to then get to the root cause. I'm a very big fan of addressing the cause rather than covering up the symptom in all areas of my life. And so the book has a number of stories of my life from when I was very, very young till the last couple of years. And that particular story that you're referencing involves me and an incident with two very glamorous strippers that propositioned me to go and take it further, stepping into that high-class escort realm. And then the story associated with what happened when I was trying to get the money for it, which involves the casino. And maybe if people want to read it, because I don't want to give away the story, but I'm happy to go into more if you need some more intel.
I manufacture infinite commitment. How?
So I'm in this, in the addiction recovery community. And in addiction recovery, we talk about something called rock bottom. Okay. So this isn't a tactic of so much how and here's what to do and everyone can get there. So much as it is that you have to be, in my mind, in my experience, which is my truth, you have to be in a place where you are absolutely 100% dead set on changing and making that change to whatever it is you're trying to change. So when anybody, I've been sober now for 19 months, and
props.
I didn't just, thank you, my friend. I didn't just choose to get sober from alcohol. I haven't gotten drunk in that period of time. I also cut off smoking pot. I cut off playing video games, gambling, pornography, social media, from apps on my phone, and every other thing that was really pulling me out of alignment. And this was a
Wait. I'm sorry. Everything that was pulling you out of what?
Alignment.
Alignment. Thanks. I didn't hear the word pulling you out of alignment. I'll keep going. I want to hear what that
And
is.
I'll just elaborate what alignment is. Alignment is my identity being congruent with my actions I take every day. So I see myself in a certain light and my actions don't match that. Therefore, I'm out of alignment. That's the simplest definition I can give you.
I love that, actually, alignment. Because you think I have a car. When a car's wheels are out of alignment, its efficiency is tremendously compromised, right? And stuff breaks. Stuff
Great
breaks.
way to, it's a great way to think about it. And that's what happens in your life. Shit breaks if you're out of alignment.
Oh, that's a cool analogy, man. So it's like you accidentally hit a curb and now your wheels are out of time. It's no big deal, but you're out of alignment.
That's right.
And if you don't fix it, you're going to have this is going to escalate.
That's right. That's right. So getting back to my example of getting sober.
Yeah.
I won't go into all the details, but I hit a rock bottom where I nearly lost my family, and my wife was pregnant, and I had a 4-year-old son at the time. This is a year ago now. He's 5. And my wife had threatened to leave me and actually left me for a short amount of time. And at that point, when I hit my rock bottom, February 13th, 2020 was the exact date. I said, I don't care what it takes. I am never, ever, ever going to put her through this again in my life. And I am going to get the help I need. Now, I didn't know what the path was. I didn't know that I would go into therapy. I didn't know that I would get a sponsor. I didn't know that I would join a 12-step program. I didn't know any of this, but I knew in that moment I would do whatever it takes to change and to get rid of these vices that were costing me my marriage and the woman I love. And it took me seeing her in pain and seeing her traumatized to get to that place. And that at that moment, I was all in on my own health and sobriety.
Your next big project is you. What do you mean?
It's all about you. You're at that stage in your life. As I said, you've accomplished a bunch. And you know what? All of a sudden, the questions, Chris, you start asking yourself become different. I got the money in the bank. I've got the house or the second house or the car I wanted or the swimming pool or whatever the heck else it is in your life. Now there are important questions around significance and what that really means. Questions about anything I've regretted. Questions about abundance. I'm at a point now that I've got time, talent, and treasure. Questions about gratitude. Questions about just forcing myself to think and look at life through a different lens. And I call this perspective. Questions around being my best. Questions around not just creating my legacy, but living it right now. So your next big project is you, Chris, starts to attend to other things beyond the things I've been working on at work and in my career. All of a sudden, there's another timeout in my life. And it's like, I heard this in an interview. I was watching an old YouTube this weekend, Chris, and it was President Obama, in Chicago, the new presidential library. And he was on one of the TV shows, and the newscaster said, "So what's the next act for you, Mr. President?" And it's the same thing that I'm talking about here. For many people, it's like, what's the next act? What's your next project? And guess what? I believe from all my work and, where I'm at, I'm 66 years old now, and I've done a lot in my life. But you know what? There's a next act. There's a next big project. And in this case, it's for people to think about what's really important to them right now and the things they want to be working on to make a difference to themselves first and to others next.
Well, what I usually change it to, Chris, is mental integrity. And I use integrity because, well, especially, in the game of golf, for example, it's so to believe if the player has integrity, it takes care of the toughness. And, in my picture of that is when you have integrity, you always rise above. And so when you rise above, you usually come out ahead. And working at ASU all these years, in their athletic department, they have a hierarchy of what's important for athletics. And at the very top is integrity. So I kind of like to go with that one.
I love that. Well, how do you define integrity?
Well, I looked it up, and it has to do a lot with some physiological terms of tension, et cetera. But at any rate, integrity is is being yourself and playing in accordance with your values and worthy and respectful of who you are.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that.